Good evening, welcome to my channel. I'm back with another story for you. This one's a little bit odd. It's not based on random words like a lot of my short stories. It is in fact a prose version of a very short script I did for a competition. Well, kind of a competition. There's a film which is coming out very soon. In fact, it was just premiered and it's called The Impact. It's a very unusual film because it's made from 50 short films, very short films, like 1 to 3 minutes, submitted by a whole range of writers, directed by a whole bunch of different people. It's really interesting and some great stuff in it. But it was a competition initially of all the writers, who wanted to send in a script could do so, and as many times as they liked. I sent in one thing, which was accepted. I was so delighted, and my short script was called The Best Seat in the House. So weirdly enough, well, it's not that weird. The system was basically the writers submit the scripts, and then anyone who wants to direct one can sort of look through them, pick one they like, and go off and shoot it. And I talked briefly with one director who seemed interested at first, or one producer, and then they sort of disappeared. And I had other things going on, and I didn't really think much of it. And I kind of let it slide, and then a few months later I realised that the film was in production. People were shooting things, but nobody had taken mine on board. Unfortunately, there wasn't any money for shooting the films. You had to sort of come up with the funding yourself. And I just didn't have, the thousands of pounds it would take to shoot my script. So, I just let it slide, and ultimately the film got made and my short isn't in there. But because I was one of the official winners of the script part of the competition, I got this rather nice little award anyway. So I got an award for my film. Oh, sorry, it's the wrong way around, isn't it? Oh, maybe not. I got an award for my film not being in the film. And I went to the premiere and got this and got a photograph and everything. It was a little bit odd. It was a strange, bittersweet experience because I thought, my film would have so fitted in and it would have done really well. But you live and learn. But it sort of made me think, well, maybe the best thing I can do with this script is, I'm not going to shoot it necessarily, but, maybe I could turn it into a short story, which is what I did today. So, without further ado, here is my short story version of The Best Seat in the House. So this is it. 50 minutes was all the time they had left, all the time in the world. As the TV's radiance fades in the dim living room, the sound of panic-stricken car horns from outside is accompanied by Billy's ever-eerie, synthesized voice. Might as well go to the park. I've never kept anything from Billy. People look at the chair, at the complex of tubes and mechanisms that holds him in place, keeps his airway unobstructed, and cradles his head and neck, and for some reason they assume there's something wrong with his brain. There isn't. My 14-year-old son, although no larger than a 10-year-old in stature, were he able to stand, has the intellect of a scholar. A victim of a rare strain of MND, motor neuron disorder, which began affecting him when he was only 8 years old, Billy has had little recourse but reading, writing and listening to audiobooks for pleasure these last 6 years. There's no point in trying to fool him. He knows this is the end. The 10-mile-wide asteroid spinning inexorably our way will strike just off the coast of Cuba in around 14 minutes' time. It will obliterate everything and everyone with mile-high waves, firestorms, and sun-smothering smog. Good call, kid. Why not? Billy doesn't need my help to manipulate his chair, which he does with the only part of him that can move, his eyes. A computer paid for by a leading mobility charity tracks the movement of his eyeballs as he looks at a panel depicting cardinal directions, speed, and a big exclamation mark for braking. I try to phone Billy's mother one more time as we wind our way through the West London streets. The traffic is backed up and people are panicking, shouting at one another or quietly weeping in their cars. Radios and smartphones are blaring out the bad news, one particularly ghoulish channel intoning 11 minutes and counting. As expected, I can't get through. None of the service providers were prepared for everyone using their phones in every part of the globe all at once. Emily is in Cancun on holiday with her new boyfriend. Her first holiday for 5 years. She took cruel pleasure in telling me. Ever since we split, Emily has devoted her life assiduously to Billy's needs. Finally, she gets a chance for a breather, and the world ends. We'll never see or hear from Emily again. She deserves infinitely better. Fuck this maudlin shit. I need to stay positive for Billy, I think, then realise how stupid positivity is in the light of impending and total annihilation. Is hope really futile, though? Couldn't we just enjoy these last few minutes together? Perhaps. Dad, give it a rest, Billy intones, his American voice oddly out of place in the West Ealing suburb we're traversing. It's not gonna connect. I know it won't, but I feel it's important to keep trying. We never got to say goodbye. Governments must have known about the asteroid for months since they mounted a failed attempt to divert it last week. Kepler 95A 1003 merely shrugged off the first nuclear warhead, then cracked into two pieces on the second attempt. It sent the largest fragment on a new collision course, one actually worse than its original trajectory. As we turn into the park, Billy almost flattens a small Scotty dog. Its owner, an elderly lady sitting stunned and alone on a bench, doesn't protest, pulling her errant pet back. My tree, says Billy, and I nod, watching him cut a diagonal swathe across damp grass still sparkling with spring dew. It isn't even 8 a.m. yet. We reach the tall, convoluted chestnut tree that Billy used to scramble up as a child, before the MND made such dexterity and strength impossible. The chestnut's broad and striated trunk has a couple of branches at shoulder height. Billy could reach them when he was 8. I wonder if I could still climb this tree. Like Billy, I was an avid arboreal explorer in the late 1970s. I'm almost 50 now, and I'd probably kill myself if I wish I was up there. He's read my mind. I don't need to interrogate what this means. It's obvious. If you want a decent view of the end of the world, the upper branches of a 40-foot chestnut tree are pretty unbeatable. Wish we could, Billy. I really do, I say, turning away so he can't see me cry. I hold the muscles of my face rigid, almost as if mimicking my son. No weakness now. Make his last few minutes memorable. But how? Fuck it, let's do it. Billy's eyes scan the number board, piecing together a spooky laugh, which echoes out across the lawn. The park is mostly empty, save some lost souls and determined dog walkers, who may simply have missed the news. Good for them. I'm wearing my suit and tie because I thought I'd be driving Billy to his special needs school and then going to work. Now the tie forms an impromptu set of restraints as I fasten my son's wrists together. His fingers splay like the twigs that sway in the breeze above us. I just hope nobody's watching. Not that they're likely to intervene, what with the world ending and everything. I test the knot and give the tie a tentative tug. It holds. Billy's eyes jar wildly as he types as fast as he can. Dad, are we really... Yes, we are, son, I reply. Best seat in the house. I pull Billy's arms over my head and gently lever him out of the cushioned ergonomic chair so that he piggybacks. His trained feet dangle, bumping against the back of my knees. There's nothing much I can do about that. He's remarkably light, and I realise, with a stifled sob, that I've not had cause to lift my son for years. Emily was always there for the baths and for bedtime. I tug the chair against the bole of the tree and use its footrest and seat to raise me to a level where I can get my arms and chest over the lowest branch. The chair rolls back suddenly, comically stranding us over the chestnut limb like discarded rag dolls. This won't do. A dramatic voice filters in from the street outside. 7 minutes and counting. I make 3 attempts to swing my right leg over the branch, which is as thick as my thigh. Grunting and cursing with careless abandon, I haul a second leg up. Now we're lying on the branch, clamped there like an 8-limbed lizard. Reaching for the tree trunk, I drag myself forward, then onto my knees, and finally haul us both into standing position. The rest of the climb is easier. The branch is thinner, closer together, and plentiful. Papery leaves scrape my cheek as I wince with effort, clambering foot by foot higher into more rarefied branches that bounce a little under our weight. Eventually we reach a U-shaped junction just 10 feet or so from the canopy, and at least 30 feet from the ground. It would be quite impossible to climb down now, but of course we won't have to. Separated from his electronic devices, Billy can't speak, but I can see in his widening eyes as I swing him round into my lap that he's delighted. There's always a little moisture around his eyes since he has trouble blinking, so it's hard to see if he's crying as much as I am. I pull his arms over my neck and force the tie over the prong of a storm-sheared branch. To the uninitiated, it would appear Billy is stretched painfully, his arms above his head like a hostage, but I know he can't feel anything. I hope that means they'll be spared any pain when the fire and floods come. Look at that! What a view! I remark, in lieu of anything more sensible to say, as I lean back against the trunk. My boy, he will never become a man, swivels his pupils to face a London cityscape which appears as leafy as a forest. Ealing is one of the greenest neighbourhoods in West London. Cars are backed up in the winding avenues below, but their horns are hushed now. I look at my phone. No bars, no signal. 1 minute and counting. I love you, son, I say, quietly, for the first time since he was a baby. I'm Scottish. We don't vocalise such things, except in times of extremity. Love is a given. I guess he says something similar in his mind, as we feel a warmth wash over us, and there's the first blossoming of something unearthly in the cloudless blue above. So there you go. As you can probably tell, The Impact was not the cheeriest of films, although there was a surprising amount of comic moments in it. And yeah, I tried to inject some hope into a story that ends with the total annihilation of the human race. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, do share it. Subscribe to the channel. I have a big surprise coming for you very soon, which you'll enjoy, hopefully, if it happens. And yeah, I'll be back soon with another random word story. I haven't given them up entirely. Yeah, so that was that. See you soon. Bye.